Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to Spiritual Psychic TV and this show, Being Spiritual, with me, your host, Ashley Robinson. It's wonderful to be back, folks. Last show was about a month ago. Since then, I've been away at our Spiritual and Psychic Wing weekend, Spirit Seeker, down in Stratford-upon-Avon. Absolutely fantastic weekend. I'm going to talk a little bit about that later on the show today. For those of you joining us in the world of Facebook, welcome to you. You can participate in the show this evening by making sure you're following the live stream and participating in the comments. And by live stream, I mean it's the 21st of October, Greenwich Mean Time, just after 8 p.m. Occasionally, we do get people getting upset that we don't comment back to you sort of 2 weeks after the show. On YouTube, folks, just log in, participate in the live chat. It's an interactive show. We're looking forward to your questions. You can ask Ash anything, absolutely anything spiritual. We will go off on a bit of a tangent tonight and talk about a few different sort of spiritual and psychic subjects. There'll also be the opportunity for some free readings this evening, but it's audience participation. I'm going to get you to work. I'm going to get you to answer all sorts of fun and silly questions as part of doing that. The other way of participating in the show, folks, is just showing us your love. Let us know you're there. Let us know you're there and where there is. So where are you watching this show from tonight, folks? Are you tucked up in bed? Are you at home on the couch? Are you watching this with friends and family? Where in the world are you watching this from? Are you round the corner from me in South London, or down on the South Coast, or across the pond in the USA, or are one of our guests right on the other side of the world in Australia? So do let us know where you are. And of course, if you're watching the show this evening for the very first time, wonderful. Really good to have you back. So we're going to do a couple of hellos. Kate O'Malley says hi, and she says she saw me at the seance. I hope that was me you saw as opposed to my seance cousin that occasionally comes through as a spirit ghost. Yes, of course, Spirit Seeker, Kate. We did an experimental seance on Saturday night. What did you think of it, Kate? It was a bit of an experiment. We didn't know if anything would happen. We had some alternative styles of mediumship and a bit more of sort of channeled work. Some of our guides come through as well as communicators of loved ones. For those that are watching, we also had some infrared cameras. So that'd be good. So bonsoir, Ashley Patterson, watching from France. Good to have you on the show. From Ashley in London to Ashley in France. So Matthew Lintott says hello and good evening. Hiya, Matthew. Welcome to the show this evening. Sophie Parker, my cousin Sophie, she's been doing some lovely psychic art and she's developing as a wonderful medium, folks. And I know Sophie's not feeling 100% tonight. Otherwise, she was going to actually join us on the show, but she might be doodling a little bit later, and you never know, she might WhatsApp me some of the images, particularly when we do some of the readings. And Sophie, I'll try and draw a card for you later. So, get ready when we're asking questions, and I'll try and give a message. Nadia says, funny, I'm dealing with Ashraf and always hope for some form of communication. I was just thinking about Ashraf, then you comes up line, I saw Ash. So I don't know who Ashraf is, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Nadia, but tell us more and share if that's good. But I'm pleased that you've stumbled across us this evening, Nadia. So I'm Ash, I'm a spiritualist medium from South London, and we're talking about spiritualist philosophy tonight, and we'll be doing a couple of readings as well. The lovely Julie Caswell, good evening to you, Julie. She helped as master or mistress of ceremonies at the experiment seance. We also used one of the spirit boxes over the weekend. Tried to get some electronic voice phenomenon. That was really interesting. The lovely Mr. Phil Shaw. Good evening, Ash, Richard, and everyone in chat. Hiya, Phil. Welcome, sir, to the show this evening. You're joining us on YouTube. So a good mix of people on YouTube and Facebook. Every now and then, folks, some of the gremlins in Facebook prevent your messages from getting through. So we are finding that YouTube live chat tends to be a more reliable way of getting through, but we're getting your messages now, and if I've read your name out and said hello, then that means that's working on Facebook tonight. The lovely Kaylin Bryn says a good evening and joins us on Facebook. But while I'm talking about gremlins and algorithms and everything else, I want to point out that there is some imposters out there. There are some folks claiming to be SPTV on folks. Good evening, Natalie Bentley on Facebook. If you are ever approached and receive a friend request from someone claiming to be SPTV, challenge them and ask them to verify who they are. Ask for a live verification. First thing is, SPTV does not have a profile. Well, it will friend people. SPTV is an organization. It has a wonderful team of ambassadors, including our producer, Richard. Hi, Mum and Dad. Have a good show. Thank you very much, Mum and Dad. So Yeah, always challenge your verification. It's a good sort of style of membership, isn't it? If you say you've got to communicate who it is, and if someone friend requests you and says they're SPTV, the strong likelihood it isn't, because we don't have a person profile. We have an organization profile. Producer Richard James and I have private profiles. You have at Ash Robinson Medium, my Facebook public profile. Elizabeth McQuire joins us from Scotland this evening. Good evening, Elizabeth. So yeah, just be aware of that, folks. We do know that some of these imposters are also claiming to be some of the hosts. So again, I will never send you a friend request off the back of one of these show, folks. I hope some of you are saying, you know, violence coming out. It's not that I don't love you and appreciate you. Of course, I love you and appreciate you. What I ask you to do is, if you want to engage with me on the social medias, is you find me. You find my verified profile at Ash Robinson Medium. If you want to participate with SPTV, go over and find the SPTV fan page on Facebook. Join the live chat. Head over to SPTV UK. Wonderful website. Spirit of Love says, Ashley, I thought Gordon Higginson coming through via Leslie was him to a matter of fact, and a very direct is how I remember him. Lovely, Spirit of Love, for showing that feedback. I think that was our medium Leslie Moulton that had someone claiming to be Gordon. Interestingly that you've thrown in the last name, so I don't think she did during the experimental sounds. So I don't know who you are, Spirit of Love, other than you are the Spirit of Love, which is a wonderful way to present yourself. Dawny Walden from Essex, with flu, COVID, want to feel better soon. Listening to this channel is a distraction. And Dawny, with your permission, my friend, we will send you some love, light, and healing. Sadly, it is cold and flu season, isn't it? And we're also in that dilemma in 2022. Is it a cold or COVID? I'm sorry that you're not feeling well, and I do hope and wish you feel better soon. Melanie Muggeline, was that McGonnelly? I hope I've pronounced that correctly. If I haven't, tell me how to say your name properly, Melanie. I'll have a go. You're joining us in the UK from London. Hope you're all well. Lovely energy for that. Thanks, Melanie. That's lovely. Who else have we got on the show tonight? So do let us know, folks. Sue Henderson says, what's the best spirit box and can you buy and where from? Now, so one of the best ways of, I think, capturing electronic voice phenomenon actually can be from the concept of the old TV. I don't know how old you are, whether or not you're old enough to remember TVs. You had to manually sort of tune in and dial. But what you're looking for is that static between channels. Sometimes you can knock the modern tellies into that sort of static mode or the white noise by provoking it to lose its input, you know, taking it off your HDMI or something like that. For older viewers, you know, SCART leads and coaxial. But the idea is to try and create an environment where perhaps spirit can come in and you get some electronic voice phenomenon in that white noise. There are a few different types of spirit boxes. You know, again, you want to experiment, either find someone that recommends a brand. Frank's Box was a particular brand that people used to go by, but lots of these paranormal investigators also resell these things. So yeah, you don't want to spend too much money on this. You can create something similar with an AM FM radio as well, but talk to someone that's using one. The lovely Julie Caswell you can contact via at Wimbledon Spirits on the Woman and Spiritualist Church site. She does some paranormal investigation with us there. Okay, thank you, Sue. Good question. Great to see the questions already starting to come in. That's really good, folks. Yeah, letting us know where you're from and where you're communicating, and also if there are any particular subjects, folks, you would like to carry on with tonight. If we don't get any initial provoke, we're going to talk a little bit about guides and the importance of starting to know your guides and understand them more, and talk to you a little bit about some of my experience of the weekend. Now, Sarah Weston says the imposter profile title is all in capitals. Good cybersecurity tip there, Sarah. So someone writing SPTV in capitals or claiming for capitals, yeah, always suss these people out. Certainly, folks. The other thing that SPTV will never do is charge you for any of our free broadcasts. Yeah, we're very proudly 100% free on this channel, and across all of the channels that we're broadcasting to the public, it's all 100% free. You get anyone claiming to be from SPTV or one of the hosts asking for credit card details is almost certainly a scam. Now, every now and then we might say, are you prepared to donate some money in support of charity? Would you like to be a very important person and patron of SPTV? All of these are accredited sites where you have secure payments in things like PayPal. I've forgotten the other one. I think it's called Stripe. So yeah, be very careful about that, folks, and don't give anybody your credit card and your card details. We don't want to see anyone scammed, and we do hope that you continue to enjoy this show and this stream, and that you have the opportunity to participate. What do you think of the new information screen, folks? Last couple of days we've been piloting that, and I'm hoping it's to my right. Am I pointing the right way? Is it to the right? There we go. That way. There it is. It's on the right side. Hopefully you can read the text, you can read the information. We'll be giving you important information like SPTV UK, the website, the spiritual directory. Nadia from Belgium, thanks for saying that, Nadia. That's good to know. Yeah, so start thinking about your subjects, folks. What would you like to talk to me about this evening? We're going to do some card readings. We might do some spiritualist mediumship. We're going to always tell the difference between our psychic and our spiritual sort of messages. Trish Heed joins us on Facebook. She says, hi, good evening from Kent. Good evening to you, Trish. Had quite a few Kentonians over on Spirit Seeker Weekend in Stratford upon Avon recently. We got a good cohort from in and around Herne Bay. I know a few of them are watching this evening as well. Lovely to have you joining us this evening, Trish. Joanne Lewis joins us from Birmingham. The lovely Joanne. Good to see you at the Spirit Seeker Weekend. And Joanne Lewis is one of our editors, or indeed the editor of Spiritual Life magazine, a free and wonderful magazine which you can access on SPTV UK, folks. What we're after is content. We're after your stories. If you fancy picking up your pen or putting on your keyboard warrior gloves, have a go at drafting us a story. Head over to SPTV UK, Lota, thanks, and find out some more information from that. The lovely Terry Presley joins us from BC in Canada. Good evening to you, and welcome. Okay, so I'll be getting ready to do the first of a couple of readings now, folks. So I've mentioned Spirit Seeker. And we just got back from our Spirit Seeker weekend. And I said it was in a particular place. We have 2 weekends approaching, folks. So we have our next Spiritual and Psychic Weekend retreat in the south of the UK. And then we are back in the Midlands in October next year. So we've got a hello there from Shropshire. So where in March will Spirit Seeker be? I'm looking for the rough area of where the Spirit Seeker Spiritual and Psychic Weekend will be in the south. And anyone else wants to tell me where we will be going back to? Which location will we be going back to in October? And it won't necessarily be the first person that writes this, but it will be the first one whose algorithm makes it as far as my production screen. So we will see. Some clues there from Julie saying it was a lovely weekend and a lovely hotel. And we'll see who can tell me where we're going to be in March. It's £285. Dinner, bed, breakfast, free bar, and yeah, Phil Shaw in Bournemouth. Kelly got that, Bournemouth and Stratford. So Kelly, I'll give you a reading on YouTube second. Phil Shaw, I'm going to draw a card for you in a moment. Yes. So £285, dinner, bed, breakfast, and drinks. Spiritseeker.co.uk for more information on that, folks. What did you say, Mr. Producer? Well, yeah, I asked, yeah, because Richard's saying, Bournemouth is obviously we're going to be in March, and I asked that question. Kelly's answered both. So quick card for you, Phil Shaw. I've drawn the mother card. So for those that haven't really worked, I know actually Phil Shaw quite well, but Phil, in short, I've got actually, as well as this card, I've got a woman here claiming to be your mother, and as she connects with me and she gives me confirmation, it is the woman that I knew as your mother. It's the woman I met, and what she was talking to me about is the fact that you look much more handsome in your profile picture than you do in real life. What a horrible thing for your mother to say, but there's no truth, is there, than the truth that comes from the mother. And I'm asking what she means by this, Phil, and she said no, she's teasing you. She likes this photo, and she's saying that she is an older photo. It's an older photo of you. You're still a gorgeous boy, but she is talking about the time that photograph was taken, and she's telling me that it is actually a portrait photo which she had in a frame, and she's shown me a light wooden frame as part of giving me evidence of that photo, and she is talking about you being a handsome little boy. And I know you're a grown man, Neil, Mr. Shaw, but she is saying that she loves you. She sends you her love. So that quick card and message for you, Phil. Kelly on YouTube, I have drawn a card for you. This card is the death card. And sometimes people panic. Death. No, death. Don't worry about death. We know, of course, as spiritualists, there is no such thing as death. There is life after the change we call death. But as I draw this card for you, Kelly, what I'm being told is that death card for you in this is significant of the closure and end of a chapter. And this very okay, thank you. I'm picking up this initially psychic, Kelly. So this is off the back of the card, but I've just had a communicator come in. This is a man claiming to be a grandfather of yours, your mother's dad. And what they're saying is, long time coming. It's about time we end this chapter. And in fact, why don't we finish the story there? And on the death card that they selected there, let's move on. Let's use that now as a stepping stone, but it is a stepping up stone. So, Kelly, I want to say that it's an onwards, upwards, rising trajectory. And that the significance of this death zone is, let's leave that in the past as part of the foundation. And I want to say that there's been some emotional conflict. That's what I was picking up there. And the fact that the worst of that should be behind you as we say goodbye to that and we continue to go forwards. So this man claiming to say be your grandfather, it was also giving me the letter S and P. He was also showing me Phil. So my friend Phil Shaw that I just gave that message to, he's making reference to that name Phil, but he was talking about the S and the P and the P and the S. And I don't know if it was PS, I want to add something, or he was using that Phil Shaw, which is also P and S. There is some significant to you there, Kelly. Of course, if Phil or Kelly are able to give me some feedback to say that all made absolutely sense, great. If it didn't, then of course we treat every challenge in the way of that. No, we challenge and we say, why communicators are we doing that? Now, the reason Kelly and Phil will obviously know this already, we talk about the difference between psychic and spiritualist mediumship. When I'm working psychically, when I'm working with the cards and I'm shuffling the cards and I'm asking my guide team to help me select cards, versus someone actually coming forward and saying, I am a communicator and I'm claiming to be related to this person, which requires that additional evidence. Because I'm open up and I'm attuned, I find that I often segue from psychic as a platform into spiritualist quite quickly. Sometimes the psychic mediums take more of a physical energy from me, where the spirit energy actually tends to enhance me. And it's always good to know the difference for working spiritually or psychic. But Kelly, you answered the question in full. Yeah, Bournemouth in March and Stratford in October. Now, folks, we're almost sold out. So popular are these weekends. We are limited in terms of numbers. I've only got about a dozen rooms left for October next year, only about half a dozen in March. So do head over to spiritseeker.co.uk later if you want to find out some more information about that. Kelly says, makes sense, Ashley, as closure is necessary. Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate that. And closure you have, my friend. Onwards, upwards, forwards. That's what this man was saying. Really important that you continue to do that. Spoke a lot about the spiritual weekend because I'm still on a high from it. I know there's a few of you that were there with us as well, but we're going to talk a little bit more about that. I wanted to perhaps talk about my relationship with my guides, but Amy's just asked us a question and we're going to respond to questions straight away tonight. So Amy says, can our past lives run parallel with each other? Oh, good question, Amy. And there are a couple of different ways of me understanding that. Do throw in some extra context if you want to, because one way of me interpreting this question is when you say past lives running parallel with us, are you talking about the concept of our energy or the soul behind our energy, or the energy behind our soul actually being in more than one place at the same time, or in more than one time at the same time that we are living this life and this experience? Or are you talking about past lives running parallel with each other, as in, you know, I used to have this life as Fred Bloggs and now I've got this life as Ashley Robinson, and they're running sort of almost methodically? So do give me some extra context, Amy. I'm going to have it go answering it from both points of view, because I do believe in the concept of reincarnation. If I believe in the concept of reincarnation based on my understanding of this life experience being an incarnation, then past lives are anything that I've experienced before this life. And as a spiritualist, we talk about a life after the change we call death. And therefore, the life that we have lived, that experience becomes a past life. So I think it's absolutely possible that you can I don't think it's an absolute necessity. I don't think everyone that has an earthly experience goes on to incarnate again. I think that you can do it, and some people might do it one or two times. Other people might do it hundreds or tens of thousands of times. And the more I start to understand about my soul that makes up or has this experience, as a spirit being having a human being experience as Ashley Robinson, I'm starting to become of the sort of the personal opinion that it's quite possible the experience of Ashley Robinson is part of something bigger. Now, Amy goes on to say that she means our soul being more than one place at the same time. So I thought you did, Amy. And yeah, absolutely. I think that if we think about our higher self, or if we think about the soul being a container for the sort of life force, then I think, yeah, absolutely, our soul is not necessarily our personality. So the personality of Ashley Robinson will have a life after the change that my body as the vessel goes through called death. Now, does that mean that the personality of Ashley Robinson is an expression of the soul and it has to happen methodically? Or is it possible that the soul is having multiple experiences and the soul is part of a bigger, wider life force? So it's my personal opinion, and I caveat that. I'm encouraging others to come forward with their own personal opinions. I think that it is possible. I think that the soul can be in more than one place at the same time, and it can be in multiple times at the same time that we recognize on Earth. I don't claim to be a metaphysics expert and to understand all of it, but a lot of the evidence I've had from my spirit team and my spirit guides is that reincarnation is possible, that you can access the experiences you've had in previous lives. As a spiritualist medium, when we give evidence of someone's life after that change we call death, they are giving evidence of the personality that they had. And the absence of the personality in a human being is the difference between a human being and a corpse. So yes, the soul can be in more than one place at the same time. I think that's possible. In my sort of limited understanding as a human being, I find it easier to think about my soul as a personality. And let's call the soul Alpha, because it starts with A. So you've got the Alpha soul, and right now, Alpha soul is having an experience as Ashley Robinson. But is it possible that when Ashley Robinson finishes this experience, that Alpha then has another experience as Jane Smith, and then as Fred Blocks, and Alpha continues to absorb these things like a scrapbook? Yes, I believe that's possible. Is it also possible that at the same time that Ashley Robinson is having an experience on behalf of the Alpha Soul, that the Alpha Soul is also experiencing something else also on Earth at the same time, or even possible on other planets? I think all of that is possible. Now, some people talk about that as the soul. Some people talk about it perhaps as a soul group. And perhaps the group is a group of souls, and the souls, for want of a better words, become spirit. And I think we all love a good label, don't we? And in the spirit world, we talk about the spirit, we talk about the personality, we also talk about the soul. But I think it's also possible that the personality, which often gives evidence of the life after death, part of a soul group and a group of people that continue to incarnate and experience things together. Because we like thinking in 3D, because we're human beings, I always think about the soul as a thing, like a product, like a brain. But of course, all of that's 3D, and it's all about me and my understanding of the human body and the sort of biology. So good question, Amy. I hope that I've answered it. Do share your thoughts and feelings on the subject. And if anyone else wants to challenge that, please do. And Amy, as you asked a question, I've drawn a card for you. And the card that I have drawn for you is the money card. Sorry? Okay. There we go. So this is the money card. In this card, there is money about to be unearthed. It looks like ancient money, treasure that's been buried or forgotten. And I'm asking what that card means for you. And there is this idea of you sitting on a treasure, sitting on a money. Amy, you're welcome for answering the questions. And this idea of keep working, work those fields, and you will uncover something. You'll uncover something valuable. Now, sadly, Amy, I don't think this is of actual money value or monetary value. I'm asking my guide teams about this, and they're talking about some work you're doing right now on you. Some investment, Amy, that you're putting into yourself. And what I'm being told is keep chipping away, Amy. Keep working, and you will see that there is some treasures. and they are like old treasures. Okay, part of this is an element of old experience, and I know you mentioned a question about past lives, but there's something that you are discovering about yourself, and I'm going to say keep working and you will come across that money. It is buried there. So Amy, that card was for you. So I think anyone that actually asks me a good question tonight, folks, will have a card drawn for them too. I will do that. Now, Matthew says, why does it take some people years to come through, and why do some people that were probably quite spiritual on earth never come through? Good question, Matthew. I think that actually some of our more spiritual people don't come through because they don't want to. If it all makes absolute sense to them, when they cross over to the spirit world, they're like, freedom, peace, no more physical pain. I can recreate a spiritual version of myself without any of the imperfections, and I'm going to go and live a spiritual spirit experience. There was a lovely lady who was very much like a grandmother figure to me at Women of Spiritualist Church called Fernie. I like to think of her as an old soul that probably incarnated a few times. And she was very clear in her earthly experience that she wouldn't bother. You know, you love me, you know I love you, and when I die and my body is finished, that is the end of that vessel, and I'm going to go off and I'm going to retire quite happily and live everly after in heaven. And to this day, no one's ever brought evidence of that personality of Fernie. So sometimes I think it's personal choice, Matthew. I think we have personal choice in this world. We have personal choice in the next world. I'm just going to cough. I'm going to put you on mute to spare you. 1 second, folks. Okay, sorry about that. So yeah, it's just personal choice. You decide not to. Other times, it's that you're working out how to. So I think if you have an understanding in how this works, you can communicate immediately. And I've known people that aren't necessarily spiritualists, but understood there was something greater than themselves. And as soon as their body went through that change we call death, like boom, within minutes, yeah, they started communicating. Other people need a bit of understanding, a bit of explaining. If you believe that your body's going to be buried and your body will become, worm food, right up until the point that someone from heaven blows the bugle and the trumpet to call you to action, and there's this sort of great awakening, then actually, if that was your culture and that was your belief, then you'll get to that point, and you won't do anything else. And you need a little bit of help and encouragement from your friends and family in the spirit world to bring you across. I also think, Matthew, that there's a good chance that our bodies go through so much physical and psychological pain, and particularly those that have gone through diseases and they have fought or battled an illness for a long time, that they actually need a bit of recuperation, a bit of spiritual recuperation, where they go off, in, for want of a better words, to some sort of spirit hospital or spirit's home, for a bit of care, a bit of respite, and they get well as a spirit in order to communicate. I know your follow-up question there, Matthew. It's not on the screen now, but I think it was, do you think it's possible that they've reincarnated? So that, again, Matthew, is something I do believe is possible. I was fascinated when I was out in China to learn about the system behind the choosing of the emperor, and also, sort of, within cultures within Buddhism, the Dalai Lama. And there are people, I think, within the Hindu world as well, that believe that reincarnation is immediate, to the point that the emperor, of China, when the physical change happens and death happens to the personality that is there, every single baby that is born at that precise second is identified as the next Dalai Lama or the next emperor. So I think that's absolutely possible. I think some people do go on to reincarnate. I think that often when people do communicate, and we talk about why haven't they reincarnated, it's because they're waiting. I think that most people wait 2 or 3 generations of family to regroup, to rendezvous in that place I call heaven, and come back down. So Matthew's given me the thumbs up, says he definitely agree. Thank you for sharing your question, Matthew. And a question I have for you, Matthew, is the body. And this Richard, producer, so for those that have never met him, that's what he looks like. I imagine you'd be very successful trick-or-treating with all the veins out, but this is for me, this car. Matthew says this is so fascinating. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for asking good questions to make it fascinating. It's a very boring show when it's not as engaging. So with the body card, Matthew, what I want to say is there's an element of you realigning your mind, your body, and your soul. And right now, my guide team are saying to me that your body is what needs a bit of investment. Your mind is awakening, and as we talk about mind, body, and soul, the mind and soul are sort of in quite nice tally. they're in good sync. But it's about getting this all for the body. There's an element of you burning the candle at both ends, Matthew, and there's an opportunity for you to get a little bit more rest and a little bit more of meaningful sleep. I'm being told that you're spending a lot of time on a personal device right up until that point of bedtime, and you're not fully switching off and you're not fully relaxing. And we want this opportunity for you to be ditch the device for a couple of hours before you go to sleep and truly start to wind down for the day. Go to bed that little bit earlier. That extra 10 minutes is going to make a difference, so you won't have to fight so much to get up the next morning. And I want to say that, you know, you've absolutely got this. We're aware that you are trying to bring it all in sync, like interfaces, your mind, body, and soul, your spiritual self. You're very aware of all those interfaces that keep this all together. And there's this opportunity for you to continue to invest in the body, Matthew. I also want to say there's been an element of a change, and also an increased challenge around exercise, and this being great for the body. So Matthew, that card was for you. Hopefully that made sense to you, Matthew, joining us on Facebook this evening. So you do keep your questions coming, folks. I wonder if anyone's thinking about guides, because, you know, I was talking about guides, and one of the things I got the opportunity to do at Spirit Seeker for the first time publicly. Hi, Joe, joining us for the first time. Never seen us before. I think that's a picture of a cat as well, and that looks like and perhaps an Irish flag. Welcome, Joe Smith. Yeah, one of the things I got to do in Spirit Seeker for the first time in one of our breakout rooms was I got to introduce a bit of my guide team. Now, on this show, folks, you'll hear me talk about the executive committee that make up my influencers in the spirit world. We sometimes joke about the chair of that committee, Mr. Ralph A. Steadman. And I used to say, if you're a drinker and you're playing the SPTV drinking game, you can have a shot every time I mention his name, because he was a strong influencer to me while he was alive. As part of me introducing my guides, I allowed my mediumship just to get that little bit deeper, where I was, for want of a better word, surrendering myself so that they could speak more directly. So not quite a sort of trance or a taken over state, very much though that I tried less to be me and let the guides step forward. I'm happy to talk more about that and that experiences. We had the show with Phil Shaw. We spoke about the different sort of phases of control and trance. But the more I've started to do that privately, the more I've started to find out more about my own guide team, which I felt is quite important. But it was great to share some of their stories with that small group of people. So if anyone wants to ask any questions about that or about any of my guides, I'm happy to do that too. Stace Shaw, the lovely Stace Shaw, joins us on YouTube tonight. She says, question: why do people look down on psychics and treat them differently to mediums, or feel that psychic is lesser ability? Sadly, Stace, I think the honest answer is that discrimination exists in many different sort of forms and guises. Often, though, this is just people with smaller minds that don't really understand how this all works, because, you know, mediums is the term for anyone that works with, like for me, the energy. So healers are to a certain extent a medium, in that they work within that medium, but they do it with the intention of healing, working with that energy. Anyone that can read energy of objects, anyone that allows spirit to come from, that term medium for me is a lovely generic term for anyone that wants to work with that energy and work the spirit world. When we talk about psychic, we're talking specifically about the energy and without any specific communicator. Now, because I've trained as a spiritualist medium, most of my psychic work still involves a level of psychic protection, of which my spirit team look after me. So there's a constant blend, but it's certainly not a lesser ability. You're absolutely right. I also think that sometimes one of the reasons that people may look down on it is not everyone understands the difference between working in that psychic or sort of spiritual mediumship, guys. And of course, we live in a world where you can label yourself as anything. You know, I've been over in America. I gave a private reading to someone in Japan last week. I'm an international medium. You know, both the first two things are absolutely true. But why does it make a difference if I'm an international medium? Do clients only want mediums that are from a particular nationality? Do clients only want international mediums? Or you must be more experienced because you've spoken to someone from more than one country. I think all of those labels are things which, I'm going to say it, inflate the ego. And we all have an ego. either need to take control. But some people call themselves psychic mediums. Some people call them spirit mediums, spiritualist mediums. Some people call them psychics. You know, psychic Sally, who's done quite well for herself on telly. She gives, in my opinion, sometimes evidence of life after death. And for me, that is mediumship. But she always says she's not mediumship. She's certainly not a spiritualist. She's a psychic. So a lot of it is, I think, people's misunderstanding of labels, Stace. For those that do know the difference between psychic and sort of mediumship work or spirit mediumship work, there's that element of not everyone describes himself properly or understands that sort of difference and blend of energy. But, anyone that looks down on anyone for anything else is wrong. That is just part of us being lesser human beings as opposed to a lesser ability. All of the things that make us different, Stace, also bring us together, don't they? And I like to think that, the congregation online today on YouTube and Facebook, it's a very inclusive crowd. We've got people from all over the world, different ages, different backgrounds, different religions, different genders. And all of those things that are part of our diversity portfolio, the things that make us different, actually, for me, diversity and inclusion is also about the things that bring us together. Our interest in a life after death, sharing knowledge and the truths of spiritualism bring us together. And I think the more we can do that in the world, a happier, better place it will be. So good on you for challenging the status quo. And let's continue to challenge anyone that doesn't do that. Thank you. She says, Stace says she totally agrees with me on that. Thank you. Thank you, Stace, and thank you for what you do. A card for you, I will give you, actually came out as 2. Okay, there is something around the fool and the body. So we've just shown the body card a moment ago. This card, the fool, I always think about the jester. And there is the jester, and he's off with his pipe. And in this card in particular, it's like he's about to march off the end of the earth. Is he a fool for thinking that the earth is flat? And it is the end of the earth. Is it that he is so focused on what he's doing that foolishly he's either going to bump into the tree and off the end of the mountain? In the background is a house, isn't there? These cards I love them, the sort of medieval cards. We've got like a Tudor sort of style house, and in the background we've got the woods. But this person isn't a fool, but at times they are foolish. And they are walking, they are attempting to multitask, which is dangerous unless you've had practice doing it. And they're going to walk into a tree. They're going to bang their head. Now, the reason this card came out, it also came out with the card that I haven't shuffled away properly. And as I went to put it back, it clung to it, which was the body card. And we just looked at the body card a little while ago. And I'm talking about these 2 cards, and I'm asking my spirit team what that means for you, Stace. And there's something about you listening to your body. Okay, and not being foolish. I was trying to do my Miyagi karate, grab the flying midgie before it bites me there, folks. Sorry about that. Distracted. What did I say about multitasking and not doing it? The fool and the body. Right. Listen to your body, Stace. Okay. Obviously, listen to doctors as well. They go off to school to learn more about that. But there's something about you not listening to your own body. And again, I've got this element of tiredness with you, which is why I think it clung on to this. So don't be foolish and do listen to your body. So I wouldn't dare call you a fool, Stace, particularly as we just spoke about diversity and inclusion. So hopefully you understand what it is I am trying to say, which is to listen to yourself. And in particular, Stace, I've got a woman that's just joining me, and she was claiming to be a member of your family. She was talking about being a mother figure, but not your mother. I think she's your grandmother, your mum's mum. There is a letter J and the name Jane that she was trying to signal with me. And she was taking me to the right-hand side of your body around my knee. Stace says, that's what I feel like doing, rolling on the floor, jumping off the earth. I don't like the ride. Yeah. And your right knee. Okay, I want to send you some healing, Stace, if that's okay. Yes, I'm having to listen to my body at the moment. Yes, fighting the tiredness. Okay, those 2 cards were for you, Stace. Thanks for the question. So everyone that asks a question tonight, folks, is going to get a card. And I'm going to continue to talk about the Spirit Seeker experience. And, for me, a bit of an awakening. Now, for the experimental seance this year, we decided to do something slightly different. And rather than have lots of the psychic tools on a late Saturday night, we split people up into different groups throughout the day. We did a bit of table tipping, a bit of electronic voice phenomenon on the Frank's box, the spirit box. We did a bit of mediumship, psychic art. And in the evening, we sort of got mediums together and we asked some of our spiritual ambassadors to come through. So Julie Caswell was just saying, the talk with your guys was very interesting. The temperature in the room changed, went very cold when Bear was talking. It was like you could feel him walk across the room. Thank you, Julie, for sharing that experience. One of the things we tried to do in the experimental seance was to see if spirit could influence the temperature in the room. Some people at times said they could. Stace Shaw was just giving me some confirmation there. Jay, name would be Jack, her husband, deceased, or Jake in reference to my son on earth. Thank you, Stace, for that. Always lovely to get a bit of verification, folks. Again, probably for the ego. We just spoke about the ego, don't we? But as a medium, we very rarely get the feedback, so it's always nice to know that it has made sense and it has landed. Because as a medium, under the leadership of Mr. Harry Edwards, it'll say, don't do carabao mediumship. Never give them something to take away. So, yeah, the idea of this experimental seance, check it out, folks. Go and look on YouTube playlist later. Look up Saturday Night's Spirit Seeker experimental seance. Could you see any changes in the room? Richard, producer, gave us some wonderful advice on the difference between an orb and perhaps a fly being caught on the optical camera. One of the experiments we tried to do, we tried to get people to put their hands together, and we were trying to change the temperature within the hands. And people could talk about the energy changing and that sort of feeling. One of the things that Spirit did during the experimental seance was they told me they were going to try and produce something in the hand. Now, people in the room couldn't see anything, but they felt changes in the atmosphere, and people online said they could see changes around the hand. So yeah, have a look on that, folks. Tell us what you could see. Melanie says, I've been told two different things about a spirit in my hall. A friendly one, then got told not so friendly. Melanie, only you will truly know the difference. Personality of the communicator often inherit the personality of the life they lived. So not everyone is a great human being. Some of them are absolute sods, some of them mischievous, some are mean, some are greedy, some are selfish, some are horrible, and some are evil. So when our bodies go through the change we call death, of course, the vast majority of that personality inherits all of those qualities. It's what they've spent that last experience doing. So every now and then we do get spirits that are not so friendly. The important thing to know, Melanie, is that you are in charge. As a human being living this experience, you have more say-so in this life and in this experience. We have constant confirmation from Spirit that in the spirit world, they can do anything they want, whenever they want, and they can do it immediately. It is a place of pure thought. All they need to do is think it, boom, it happens. They cannot influence things on Earth as quickly, or sometimes even at all. So if they're not friendly and you don't want them in your hall, tell them to shift it. You have the power to do that. You can do it nicely. If you have a colorful language at home, you can use a colorful language at home. You can ask your guides or your angels or your dragons or your Pegasus or fairy kingdom, anyone to come forward and ask them to leave. If you are working as a medium and you know about your own guide team, you can ask them for confirmation of who they are. Ask them to identify themselves. But yeah, always remember that, folks, that you're in charge. You have the power over anything good or bad. You can turn it off and turn it off. Melanie says, I feel it's fine, not scared of it, but I did ask another question. Okay, so I haven't seen your other question, Melanie. I will look out for that. Maybe one of the Facebook gremlins has got hold of it. If it's not come up recently, we'll show you. And a quick card for you. The scales, Melanie. The scales. Now, if you look at this card, the scales are not balanced. Okay, I've got your question now. I'll leave that on the screen and I'll come and answer that in a minute. The scales. You have got an abundance of fruit. Okay, in this tree we've got apples and they are falling from the tree, but you are trying, like with competing priorities, to grab them, to save them before they hit the ground and perish. And at the moment, I've got you juggling a lot of competing priorities. There's this sense of justice being really important and you wanting a fair and level playing field. And you're constantly trying to balance the scales. I think there is some, okay, thank you. I know, because I know, because I'm looking at a photograph of what could be you and two members of your family. But I've got two children linked to you, Menley, in the earthly life at the moment. And I've got this competing priorities and this FOMO, this fear of missing out, and you balance it. I've got three boys. One's only 6 months old, but the 4-year-old and 7-year-old constantly arguing at the moment, and there's this fear of missing out. What have they got? What have they got? What have they got? So Okay, thank you. Right, listening. You are juggling these competing priorities. You're trying to balance the fruit. The fruit is around you. Okay, there is no need to be afraid of missing out. What will be will be. We know that you stand for justice. You stand for love. We stand for truth. Okay, Melanie. So that card was for you. To answer your question, I buried my mum, but wanted a cremation. I was only 17 at the time, and was left to me. I wanted to have somewhere to go to visit her. She would hate me for that. Melanie, don't worry about that. And I don't have your mum communicating with me right now, but I'm almost certain that hate is not a thing that exists in the spirit world. And even if it did, because of her previous personality, they don't progress much further than that. They almost get stuck in a bit of a limbo, and they're unable to progress until they can get rid of that hate. So don't worry about it at all. Thank you. Just give me some confirmation. 2 girls and a single parent. Okay. Thank you, Melanie, for giving that confirmation. Yeah. So don't worry about it. Funerals, to a certain extent, are for those that are still living. We as spiritualists, in fact, folks, I'm training to be a spiritualist minister. I just filed an application today, actually, having completed my spiritual counselling training with the lovely Leslie Mortimer and the Spiritualist Church. I've applied today to Unite Spiritualists to be ordained, and as part of that process, to become a trainee minister or a minister candidate. And I believe in the concept of a celebration of life. For me, when my body goes through that change called death, I know there's life after life, and I want everyone to remember that. And I want there to be a wonderful celebration of my life, assuming I've done 1 or 2 things that make people happy and they want to celebrate that life. Within my wife's family, we sadly lost her grandmother a little while ago. And using just those words, celebration of life, wasn't part of the Irish or the sort of Catholic culture. It was important that we did things more formally, that we had a formal mass in order to recognise their sort of passing to that place, both as Catholic and spiritualists, we would call heaven. So funerals become something that culturally, as human beings, we do for those that are living. It's to help with the grief. It's to help with the impact. It's to help with the denial or the shock of what we're going through. So you've done something which you felt was right for you. So absolutely the right thing to do. And, if you like to go to that place that a body is buried in order to do that, then that is important for you too. Just because I believe that she's no longer there, she's abandoned a vessel, doesn't mean that place no longer becomes important. I've interned my grandfather's ashes in our garden of remembrance at Women of Spiritualist Church. And sometimes, even though I'm at the Spiritualist Church, even though I can talk to him in theory like any time, I like going out there, because being there at the plaque, knowing that my nan, my granddad, and the dog were also all reunited when we interred those ashes, all of that's important to me. So, even those of us that claim to be good spiritual people, it's important we have ways to cope with grief, and we physically miss the presence, don't we? Or we miss the physical presence of those that have gone home to heaven. So, yeah, absolutely. Good question, Melanie. Thanks for giving me that feedback, and know that you continue to juggle those competing priorities. No worry, fear of missing out. Melanie says she was only 38. I was a kid. It was hard. Death is hard, I think, to comprehend at any side. But yes, to a certain extent, I think when someone lives to ripe old age of 100 or so, you sort of think, oh, they've had a good innings. But 38, no age at all, and difficult to ever lose a parent, but to do that as a teenager, yes, difficult. She died on Mother's Day, so she wouldn't forget. And that means a lot. Thank you, Melanie, for sharing that feedback. You've been really good on the keyboard today. You're engaging really fast, which is lovely, because we get about a 10-second delay. Means a lot, means something else another. Thank you, Melanie. You are very welcome. That message was for you. Good questions. So keep the questions coming, folks. Dawny, I would love to know how to connect with my spirit guide for support to grow. Absolutely, Dawny. I've drawn a card for you, and I was told just now to give you the card before I answered your question. This card here is prison. Okay. Now, I want to tell you something, Dawny, about this card. That person is a prison of their own making. The door's open. They could leave at any time. There's almost no reason to stay. At one point, there was a plate, there was some food on, the plate's empty. There's no reason to stay in a prison of your own making. And Donnie, I feel that's an important thing about you continuing to move forward. I'm being told, okay, thank you. Okay, all right. This is interesting. So I've got my guide working with me at the moment, one of my guides, Bear. who Julie just alluded to a moment ago. What he was saying, Dorney, is that although it's not always an absolute thing that happens, Dorney, Bear is claiming that there's someone else that is trying to influence me and trying to influence you, that wants to introduce the concepts of some breadcrumbs to find them. Okay, so in order to connect with our guides and our guide team, recognize that we very likely have different spirit guides at different times of our life for different lessons, in the same way we had different teachers at school. We probably have a principal guide that has dedicated our entire earthly experience, or dedicated, sorry, they even dedicated their entire spirit life to our earthly experience. They're with us all of the time. They sort of influence our intuition and our instinct. In terms of working with your spirit guides, keep trying to meet them. Go back on our playlist, on Being Spiritual playlist. You'll find a whole show dedicating to meeting your guides. We've done some guided meditations as well about going to the meeting circle, the gatekeeper, working out who's your bouncer, who is your gatekeeper, and starting to work with your guides. But Bear, who's one of my guides, Running Bear, as a sort of full name, was a Native American in Virginia, USA, sort of 1600s, around the time that the British were starting to colonize and grow plantations and sort of grow tobacco. And what Bear is telling me is that you have been aware, Dorney, of a Native American guide within your life. And Bear, this is Bear talking to me as opposed to your guide. They're aware of them tonight, okay, and there are some breadcrumbs. So there is a couple of things that Bear just wanted to say, that he wants you to challenge the status quo within this Native American guide, female guide that you are aware of in the spirit world. You have seen them with a full headdress of feathers, almost like there's some sort of chief. And what Bear is saying to me is they weren't that important. They didn't have that many feathers. They had one feather in her hair that was tied at the bottom, okay? And she had beautiful dark black hair. Now, the fact that Bear is telling me this is for you, Dorney, to continue to that. So I don't want to tell you more about your guide. Firstly, there's no way that I can prove it. You know, you've got to go off and do this journey yourself. It's not mediumship in that sense. But these are the breadcrumbs. So continue with your instinct. Bear tells to me you do have a Native American guide that lived several hundred miles away and at a totally different era to them. Okay, there's some of your clues, but you're on the right tracks. But rule out some of the Hollywood from your mind's eye. Clear the mind's eye, the mirror and the blank canvas, and encourage them to come forward, and she will continue to influence you. So we'll try and post a link up, Dorney. I know you're asking for a link now, but if you head over to SPTV UK, you can go back and you can look at all the shows. You can find Being Spiritual, but you're on YouTube right now. So make sure all of you folks have subscribed to Spiritual Psychics TV. Once you've subscribed to the channel, it has kind of like a homepage. And if you click on the homepage for Spiritual Psychic TV, there are playlists. And if you click on playlists on Spiritual Psychic TV, you'll come to Being Spiritual. I think we've got about 32 odd Being Spiritual shows on there now. We've done about 50 odd now, I mean, about 52 over the last couple of years. On Facebook, if you're a Facebook user, you can go over to SPTV UK, Spiritual Psychics TV on the Facebook page. Click on videos, click on the archives, and you can also access. Richard, our producer, does a wonderful job of grouping them all up. But meet your guides. That was the title of that Being Spiritual show. Meet your guides, and it followed with a lovely guided meditation. So, Dorney, I'll try and paste a link later. If anyone else who's able to do that, please do so. Oh, and in fact, yeah, that's interesting. Bear's just reminding me, about 4 hours ago, I was sat at home with my mum and dad, and I was doing some updates to one of our church websites. I created a domain when I was about 13 years old called ashleyr.co.uk. And it was a terrible website which I wrote in basic HTML. But I deleted it all today, and I replaced it with the banner for Being Spiritual. And I've added a couple of very crude HTML hyperlinks to some things. And what I actually did this evening on ashleyr.co.uk, at the very top is a hyperlink that takes you straight to YouTube, straight to the playlists for Being Spiritual. And I'd forgotten about that. I did it about 4 hours ago, and Bear just reminded me. So you can go and test that hyperlink for me. Please don't criticize my terrible website so much. It hasn't improved much since I was about 13 years old, but the hyperlink does work, and you'll see the Being Spiritual banner at the top. Ashley R, yeah, ASHLEY, so Alpha Sierra Hotel Lima Echo Yankee. Ashley, my name. R for Romeo.co.uk. I said no one give me a criticism. I bet our producer, who's a wonderful webmaster, will give me some constructive feedback later. That was my HTML coding. If I've got any other geeks that know what we're talking about, we're talking about hypertext markup language. Probably an ancient language now, like the hieroglyphs. I don't know if anyone else is coding in that these days, Richard. But that was my basic limited knowledge of website creations and prior to sort of templates. And Dawny, the crucial thing for you is it should take you straight to YouTube, straight to the playlists, and you'll be able to find that show. Dawny, you had your card, you had your message, and hopefully I've answered your question. Show's going so fast tonight. Dawny says, brilliant. Thank you so much. You are very welcome, Dawny. Absolutely welcome. It's 9 o'clock, folks. We probably got another 5-10 minutes to get in your questions. The other thing I would ask of you, folks, is can you please help us build our audience and build our community? So we do hope you've subscribed to YouTube, as I said, and we do hope you've liked the Facebook page and that you have turned on the notifications so you know when we are going live. Have you shared this stream? If not, share it now on Facebook. Just click share, go straight to your wall. Maybe tag a friend. After the show, share it on your social media channels. If you've got a spiritual WhatsApp group, share it to them. Let them know about Spiritual Psychic TV. Loads of stuff going on. Got Philosophy with me every couple of weeks. Every Saturday, a brand new medium doing mediumship. Wonderful divine service from Women of Spiritual Church on Sunday mornings. Collective Consciousness with Bill Hughes. Wonderful show last night with my friend Carolina Wells. So lots of amazing things. Some brilliant producer, great hosts, lovely Polly and Sam, and from Sunday on the cat. So yeah, do check it out. Share it, folks. Let's try and get us some likes. Richard and I were discussing earlier on about doing some stuff on TikTok. Anyone in the Facebook and YouTube world on TikTok, do you use it? Have you found me at Ash Robinson Medium? Have you found SPTV UK? We want to grow those channels. We want to see how we can use them. Do you want to see a live on TikTok, folks? Let us know. Let us know in the live chat this evening. Maybe head over to the SPTV fan page on Facebook later. Start a new chat about the use of social media. But we want to keep this channel going. We want to keep it free. We want to keep giving you new content. So please help us by sharing it. The lovely Maxine says, do people who have passed recently have to rest before they can communicate? Maxine, I do not believe that they must rest. And indeed, I have had personal confirmation that they can communicate within moments, seconds, minutes of passing to the spirit world. This includes people with a good knowledge of life after death, as well as people that don't. And I've had that several times. And as part of my training to be a minister, part of being the son of 2 ministers, going to hospitals and hospices as people's bodies approach that final change of death, we're aware that spiritualist ministers and mediums have seen people, their sort of personality, their consciousness leave that body and enter that spirit world and communicate immediately. Other people do need a little bit of a rest. Sometimes it's psychological, and there was so much psychological trauma during their earthly experience that when they finally get to heaven, they go off and they rest and they have that bit of help and then they go on. So Maxine, nice little question. I've got a card for you, which is the father card. Okay, here it is. This father is showing their child which way to point the bow and arrow, and they are teaching them skills. Okay, and as I get this card for you, I've got this element of you at the moment investing in a younger person around you. About the apple not falling too far from the tree, and you investing in them, about you teaching them, you role modeling in particular behaviors, the behaviors you expect from them. You are role modeling them, and you are giving them someone to look up to and decide to yeah, okay, thank you, decide to follow. Followers choose leaders, Maxine. There is also this element of this father card. You just mentioned it. My dad communicated straight away. Things happen for a reason, don't they? And you got the father card today, that you are teaching and you are learning and you are giving people an excuse and a reason to follow you, Maxine. And I've got someone here claiming to be a father, claiming to be your father, helping me find this card today, talking about the things that you fortunately inherited, most of their better qualities. There's something about your patience which is much better than theirs, Maxine. You'd understand this man who's claiming to be your father. Give me the letter B for bravo. And I don't know if he's bravo, bravo, and he's talking almost like quite posh about you, almost as if he's watching you in the theatre of life experience and doing this, or if it's that letter B and he's just using the phonetic alphabet, was B for bravo. But he's talking about your patience being much better, more more articulate as well. The way he was making me pronounce that bravo was he was talking about your articulate way, the way you're able to communicate in plain English. So Maxine, hope that makes sense. That card for you, and I've answered your question. If you're able to on Facebook, do give us the verification. And great that your dad communicated straight away. I believe we had someone claiming to be your dad now communicating. Heart failure that he was just talking about there. And that being a big impact, boom, in the spirit world quite quickly. He was giving that letter B. Thank you, Maxine. That is hopefully answered your question, and that was your card. So who's going to get the last couple of questions in, folks? Off to adverts. See you in a minute.
Are you planning a paid spiritual event, or looking for something to do this weekend? Then visit myspiritualevents.com. You can browse the listing, view the event details, watch a YouTube clip, look at a mini gallery, select dates and times, pay for tickets using PayPal or your debit card. Organizers can register for free and start selling tickets within minutes, be it for their online or in-person spiritual event. As an organizer, you will have access to your own admin dashboard, which will display information such as your income and your bookings, all in a simple and user-friendly display. It's free to use. Join and upgrade to an organizer. Come and visit us at myspiritualevents.com.
Tomorrow night from 8 p.m, SPTV is joined by another guest who will be demonstrating their mediumship abilities by offering free readings to our viewers.
Welcome back, folks. I hope you enjoyed the adverts. You had the opportunity to have a quick wee or make a cup of tea and do whatever you do from home when you're listening to our show. Maxine was giving some feedback and said, thank you so much, Maxine. You're absolutely welcome. We had another question just come in from Amy. Amy says, do we have the same guardian angels throughout our lifetime? Great question, Amy. I believe that we have one principal guide that is with us our entire lifetime. I think that there is even the opportunity to kind of work in the spirit world with them as part of choosing our incarnation and choosing to incarnate and sort of, agreeing who you're going to get. You got someone in the spirit world that's like, right, you're gonna live this life with it. It's gonna be about this time. I'm going to dedicate my entire spirit experience or spirit time during your earthly time to you, and I'm going to be with you from life to death. And they are there. Now, lots of us, including me, who's very aware of other guides, know very little about my principal guide. I feel their presence and they help me know the difference between right and wrong my entire life. Some people think about them as our guardian angel. Some people think about them as our higher self. But yes, for want of a better words, one guide from our entire life from our moment of conception to incarnation, 8 or 9 months later, right through to that change we go through called death. They hold our hand all the way through, and whenever we can communicate with them. And we have to remember that we've got a link to them at all times. But other guardian angels and guides come in and out as we need them. So just like we're at school and we want to learn French as a foreign language, parlez-vous français to Ashley across the channel. Your French teacher comes in and your French guide comes in and they influence you about that. So when I was learning about absent healing, I had a guide come in and help me with healing. I have someone that works with me now, a guide called Sai, who is more of an ancient character from what we would now recognize as sort of Mongolia. And he was a bit of a medicine man. He influences me with my healing. Bear helps me with my mediumship. my godfather, who I knew while he was alive, Bob Brunton, helps with my mediumship and comes forward too. Ralph Steadman helps me with my philosophy. I've got a guy called Giles, who was an American philosopher and lecturer at universities, a professor. I've recently become aware of a guy just last week called Graham, who's come in at the moment to help me with some calmness. And he gives me this different feeling. So yeah, lots of different guides at different times. Amy says, I think I have one that I'm aware of, but in recent years I've not felt their presence. And sometimes, Amy, that's because we're so attuned to them that we don't need to. There's just all part of our interface. Other times, perhaps they're carrying us. I always think about that wonderful poem, Footprints in the Sand. I think it's quite a Christian sort of influence to it when most of the time it's reprinted. But I think it's about someone talking to God, about God walking beside them most of their life, and at the most difficult time in their life, they noticed there were no longer two sets of footprints in the sand, and the challenge is, where was you, God, then at that most challenging time in my life? And I love the idea of God saying, well, that was the time I carried you, my child. I carried you. That's why you only saw one sort of set of footprints. Now, I don't believe in God as a physical human being that now resides all over us. I always think about God as more as a sense of an almighty or a presence or force. God, for me, is the word we use, the umbrella we use to describe the sum total of all energy, all intelligence, all particles, absolutely everything. So for me, God is everything. God is the universe. And therefore, when God carrying us, I still like that concept. So if you're not aware of the guide, is that a time that the guide was carrying you more regularly, or that was the time that the guide was happy with you to walk amongst your own 2 feet? So you can, lots of exercises. A lot of it is about attunement, practice, meditation, and continuing to go meet them, ask them questions, find out more about them. So thank you for that, Amy. Question, the card I drew for you is the Beauty. And there's a real thing here. This lady, who is beautiful, medieval lady, looking herself in the reflection and not liking what she looks back. She's not recognizing the beauty inside and out. Amy says she loves that poem. Hopefully you understand the context. Amy, I want to say that there's an element of you at the moment not seeing you as the beauty inside and out. There's also an element of you, Amy, feeling like you don't belong where you are. Okay, and the word I was hearing was imposter. You feel like an imposter. We sometimes talk about imposter syndrome. Even Albert Einstein, one of the world's greatest minds, used to sometimes talk about imposter syndrome and the fact that he was enormously talented at what he did, and sometimes he just didn't felt like he deserved to be talented, and therefore perhaps he wasn't. And Amy, there's an element at the moment of you not feeling that you deserve what's coming your way, good things that are coming your way, and you're not understanding the value that you are giving. And Amy, I was getting, as well with this card, I was getting the symbolic of 3, and I want to talk about 3 generations, okay? It'd be easy for me to say there's at least 3 generations because there's one above you and one below you potentially, but I want to go 3 down, Amy. And if you're not a grandmother, I'm sorry to have suddenly aged you, but Amy, there was this element of the 3 generations being quite portable, and the power of ladies and the beautiful ladies. And I kept being drawn back to this card because I've got granddaughter, daughter, mother, and I've also got grandmother, daughter, great grandmother. So so I've got these 3 elements and these 3 generations, and the importance of all of you collectively understanding this imposter syndrome and not feeling quite right. Take a good long look at yourselves in the mirrors, a full-length mirror, and look at and love yourself, because you are lovely, beautiful inside and out, all of you. Keep on keeping on, and if you don't like the look in that mirror, move on to the next one. Keep on moving forward, Amy. That was your card. I hope I've answered your question, Amy. And we're approaching the penultimate moments of the show. So who's going to get the last question of the night in? Okay, Elizabeth McGuire gets a question in. I also want to draw a card for my cousin, Sophie. Just a quick one. Libido. Okay, Sophie. So this card is for you. It's time to show your feathers, girl. It's time to get out there and show them what you're made of. This is where it counts. This is the exam question, Sophie. Get those feathers out. You've worked hard for this. Now let everyone see you. It's going to feel uncomfortable, and you don't want to be in that limelight, but enjoy the moment and enjoy the limelight. Sophie, that card was for you. Elizabeth. Okay. So there's a Monday show, Sophie, that the producer was inviting you to come on and talk about your art. So I know you're going to join us in March, where we're going to do some psychic art experiments. Elizabeth, question for you, and I have a card as you have the final question of the day. So Elizabeth says, do our animals that have passed return to our families that have passed? Is it true they have souls the same as humans? And how do the animals and spirits send a message to us? Elizabeth, lovely question. There's almost like three questions within that. I absolutely believe that there is a consciousness within animals. Now, depending on the sophistication of the shell, the vessel that contains that consciousness, the animals have different types of brains, different size brains, and different understandings, right through to, the daddy long legs and the tiniest of microorganisms, right through to gorillas and monkeys that are very, very close to sort of human DNA. When we think about pets like cats and dogs, for anyone that's owned those types of pets, these people have their own little personalities. They become part of the family, very much treated as a member of the family, and you grieve them in the same way, and they love us. Okay, the advantage that often our animals have is they're not held back by the barrier of language. We like to think of ourselves as so smart sometimes, so intelligent as human beings. But you take 10 human beings from 10 different countries with 10 different languages, and you put them in the same room, it is going to be a long time before they're effectively communicating. And it will only, once they've got rid of the language barrier and they start talking about, it's a film, I've got a book, do you want something to drink? Would you like something to eat? It's that sort of international sign language. Take the same 10 people with their 10 dogs, the dogs will immediately be in communication, constant communication with each other and using those senses. So when animals pass, I know they like to be around the spirit energy, in the sense that they have a spirit energy, the animal kingdom. And I think in that sense, there's only one afterlife. Now, there are various dimensions and flavors of heaven on the afterlife, but the energy and the personality of our animals and our pets can go to that same place that I call heaven. Now, there are lots of different levels and dimensions within that, which we could perhaps go into a deep night, but the important thing is, they are there. I think that in that sense, they have souls in the same sense that we might be just as this experience. It's an element of expressing ourself. We know that everything's made of atoms. Okay, the human body made of atoms, animals made of atoms. We know that the human body has more atoms than an animal. Okay, is it possible that after the body has been finished with, the vessel is no longer with us and is cremated or buried, that parts of those atoms that make up the personality go on to join up with other personalities? And my friend Ralph Steadman used to talk about the fact that sometimes the first incarnation on earth as a human being could be the collection of multiple existences and experiences in other guises with collective energy, primal particles of intelligence and spirit energy itself. And perhaps, a pack of wolves eventually continue to grow and evolve until eventually they can incarnate as a human being. All of that, I think, is absolutely possible. So how do they send messages to us in the spirit world? First thing is, they don't rely on language. And as a spiritualist medium, we're not Dr. Dolittle. So we don't speak animal. It's about impressions. It's about senses. It's about how they influence us. And in the same way that the spirit personality very rarely actually speak to my ears and they speak to my mind's eye, animals do the same. The other thing which is really handy is the communicator someone brings up. So, Elizabeth, I actually am aware of a man in your life. It's funny because actually, look, your card, look, the message in the bottle, okay? I've got a man that's linking with me now, Elizabeth. This man claims to know you. He claims to be your family. He's talking about being a father. He's talking about being a grandfather. And he's also taken me towards my nan's side of the family. My nan's brother was Stan. So he was great uncle Stan to me. I've got someone here who's a sibling. Okay, this man, he's talking about giving you a message in the bottle and about you understanding the message because you have received evidence, I want to say, Elizabeth, from a dog in the spirit world. And that is the message in the bottle. And in the same way that this man that's coming through, that's talking about being, I think, perhaps a brother of a grandmother figure, in the same way that they were showing that to me, they can talk for the dog, and they can talk about this dog. This dog was actually very well fed, particularly towards the end of their life, because growing up as a pup, they would eat absolutely anything, including bits of glass. He's telling me, but he's talking about him having real, quite nice chunks of steak, Elizabeth. So you'd be aware of this dog within the family that had a steak dinner in its last few chapters of life, and he's talking about eating better than he did, and him drinking cold tea. This man had a cancerous type condition, Elizabeth, that he passed with, and he's talking about having to sip almost like pureed protein or something through a straw and sipping on a cold tea towards the end of his life. But the message in the bottle is there is life after life for us all, including me, including the dog, and they will find a way to influence us. This dog in particular, Elizabeth, didn't wear a collar all the time, but when it did wear a collar, it had two metallic grey silver coloured metal discs or a disc. It's a disc, I think, a round disc on a collar on a loop, and it made like a ting 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 as he sort of went around. And you've heard that noise, Elizabeth. And he's talking about that being the message in the bottle for you. So I do hope, Elizabeth, that all made sense to you. Hope you've understood the answer to your question. I hope you've understood your message. It's been wonderful, folks, tonight to be back on the show, to communicate and to engage with you. If you have enjoyed the show on Facebook tonight, show us the love, give us those love hearts, give us the thumbs up, share the stream afterwards, tell people to watch it on playback, tell them about the concept of the channel. On YouTube, give us the thumbs up, say that you've liked it, share it across the channels, and it's really important to us that you continue to do that. Thank you so much for being with us this evening. Menely says lovely readings. Thank you, Menely, for sharing that feedback. Good night, and God bless you all. Thank you.